Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we are looking at the Cat 4 Livermore Criterium race. This is out in, you guessed it, beautiful Livermore, California, which is pretty deep East Bay. Today, the race that we're looking at is going to be just a 45-minute race, or maybe 40-minute race, and a mix of different groups here. So it's not just the Cat 4 men's, which is usually, I think it's in the age range between 20 and 35, but there's also some juniors that are in here as well. And I think there's two different groups of juniors. It's 15 to 17 and 17 to 20, something like that. This is as you can see in the bottom right corner, a very simple crit. It's not even really a 4-corner crit. It's like 3 corners and a couple bends in the road. So not technical at all. And as a result, it brings its own challenges to it. It's harder to have real effective breakaways. It's harder to create separation because everybody's just rolling around smoothly. So you really have to be sort of strategic about what it is that you want to do and when you want to do to make a move, or else it's just going to be a bunch sprint at the end. And I would say this race actually went was pretty exciting for a Cat 4 race. I think that there were, and that I believe is the first breakaway attempt on the left. We'll talk about this. I think that there are 7 total breakaway attempts, which is why I think it was a little bit more exciting than normal. You can see one of the other guys is trying to go chase him down up there. Most of the time, these early breaks in Cat 4 races, especially if it's just 1 or 2 guys, it's not super well organized. Not really going to make a whole lot of effort to go after and chase that down. But like I said, 7 breaks, I think 4 of them, or maybe 5 of them, were in the first 10 minutes. So people were really trying to get out there and make something happen. So that part of it was very exciting. The other part of it that was not so exciting and was pretty par for the course in a Cat 4 race, nice little wave there, is that you've got nobody really wanting to do a whole lot of work. So I think the average speed in this race was maybe 25, 26 miles an hour towards the end, which we'll see. It really picks up in pace here. And look, we've almost reeled these 2 guys up here in front of this fat cake guy back in. And we'll see the guy who's way up the road. He's a repeat player or offender in however you look at it, in trying to make some breaks happen. So really kudos to him for trying to get out there and make something happen. But he's about to be reeled back in pretty close here. Today I am riding for Team Tehran. There was one other Tehran teammate out there, and the other teams involved were Fat Cake, as you saw. I think Dolce Vita had a few guys out there. There was a Active Health, or I will have to go back and check what the actual name of the team was, because I think that's the team that actually won. So there's a few teams out here represented, and it's Cat 4, so yes, there are some strategies. I don't know that they ever work so well. I don't know why he's flicking me through. I think that we actually have the whole group behind us. So, and I'll get to the interesting choice that I made to go get out in the front of the race with 3 minutes into the race here. So there's a few teams out there, and people definitely have some strategies. I mean, at least some people's strategy was clearly to go out and just make breaks and try to get some separation here. But for the most part, it ended up being a big pack of people. You can't really tell here. I think that there's actually like 40 people behind. A lot of this race will be, and we'll get to it a little bit, you'll get a sense for the crowd here, but a lot of the race I was sort of hanging out in the front, which is good to get a sense for all the breaks that are happening and the actions happening in the front, but you just don't get a sense for how many people are there. Next race, I have another GoPro, which I'm going to use on the saddle rail in the back, and we'll be able to get some footage of that going there. But yeah, it was just a lot of people who were kind of doing their thing, kind of plodding along and not wanting to take big pulls up the front. I did end up making it into a break and trying to make that work, and we'll talk about that a little bit later and why that didn't work. But ultimately, oh, there's the second attempt. This guy, and I think he's part of the team that actually ended up winning it today. That guy was very strong. But again, notwithstanding the fact that he's pretty strong and looking good and just got a big old jump on everybody, it's a solo flyer, less than 5 minutes into the race. I just don't see it happening. And nothing against that guy. I think he was definitely one of the stronger people. I think he probably finished ahead of me at this race. I just don't see something like that happening, and it's not, in my mind, it's not worth chasing down. So you'll see there's the other Tehran guy right up there with the long sleeves and short bibs. We've got Dolce Vita represented there. We've got our guy on the right here who's taking lots of pulls and doing lots of breaks. And my goal for today was to sit in the pack, bide my time, and make a move or follow a move that I thought was the right move to make. Of course, as we've already seen, I spent a lot of time right in the beginning of the race, off the front of the race, off the front of the pack, and in the wind, which is what I try to avoid, but I just get too antsy, and it's too easy for me to find myself out there, especially if a lot of people don't want to do work. I want to get out there and try to push the pace a little bit. There's another guy on the left there who I think was part of that team that ended up winning this one. These guys, I think they had like four or five people in the race. All of them looked really good. So I just spent too much time off the front. I think I've got my whole grab bag of excuses for why I didn't win this one, but I spent too much time off the front. I wouldn't say even that I burnt too many matches. I think, is this the beginning? This may be the beginning of the next break attempt. I think there's one coming up pretty soon here. But I also, didn't rest very well for this. I had a bunch of fatigue in the legs here, so it is what it is. I was overall happy with my result, and we'll see that at the end here. But always room for improvement. And all in all, it was a really fun day. I think it was a fun group of folks here. It was pretty cold in the beginning, but frankly, that's not too bad when you're going race pace here. And so I think maybe what we can do is, I think we'll wait here just a second. There's another break that's about to happen. We've got our guy up here on the right with the long bibs who takes a look back, and boom, there he goes. Jumps up off the front and goes running for it. Nobody else wants to run after him. Really no surprise. I again, people are a little anxious and antsy, and you can see people making moves up the road here. I just don't think anybody thinks it's that much of a risk this early on. There's maybe 5 up the road, and here I am, exposed out in the wind, taking a pull again, for whatever it's worth. But yeah, again, less than 10 minutes into the race, these guys are coming back. This guy who, bless his heart for making the effort to do all those break attempts, I think probably ended up using a lot of his energy that he could have reserved in the end. But, it may have been what he came out here to do, and more power to him. So let's take a look at some of the other break attempts and walk through why those worked or didn't work. All right, so here we've got, there we go. That is our 6th break attempt. We're now 18 minutes into the race. Again, by the same guy in the long brown bibs. And this is one you'll see the group is like, uh-oh, there's some real get up and go from these folks, including from yours truly, where I'm doing 900 watts. Oof, brutal. That's a lot for only 18 minutes into the race. Not the smooth, calm accelerations you want here, but I'm trying to chase these guys down, and I think that I actually want to go for this one. So I believe this is the break. You can see them, the 2 up there on the left. We've got this guy up here making an acceleration, and I'm thinking at this point in time, okay, there's some strong folks up here that are going. Oh, there's my cue. There's our guy from before who's pretty dang strong, and he is actually on work health. Forgive me, I actually looked up the rest of the teams that were on, or some of the other bigger teams that were on, and I'll talk about those in a minute here. Okay, so we've got 2 all the way up front, 2 chasing with me chasing. And See a little look back there. Okay, so I catch up to these guys, and there's actually, and I wish I had my rear GoPro on this one, there's actually separation behind, and these guys are acknowledging that, and we are getting really dang close to the two up front, just coming around this wide bend here. And here I go, and I'm like, you know what, let's link up with these guys and let's actually do it. And oof, this was a lot. I remember this feeling like a lot. This was a lot to go pull up to these guys. I don't really want to do this, but because I feel like as soon as I pull up to these guys and they see us, they're gonna want to just cut out and let me take the lead. But here we go. We linked up to them. I think at this point in time, the guy behind me, there's some flicks of the elbow. These guys see that we're here. He's taking a look. At this point in time, these guys recognize that we have some separation. I don't think it's a lot, but there's 5 of us here. So that is like a good group. We've got this guy up here who's pretty strong. It is a good group for us to be able to make something happen here. If we can get rotations going, and we were calling out like, go ahead, rotate. I rotate through for the second time. I'm definitely feeling it here. But if we can get some rotations going, this should be able to stick. I mean, we should be able to outpace the peloton here if we're really committed, especially if the rest of the peloton is just kind of, you know, ambling about and not really, there's nobody actually pushing. But of course, you know, with the break up the road, that incentivizes everybody to get going. So you can see that there is some semblance of rotations going on here. It's not very good, I'll admit, and you know, people are tired. It's Cat 4, whatever set of excuses you want to give for it. It's not the best, and we're rotating off of different sides here. You know, this guy up ahead and work health pulled off to the left, and other people pulling off to the right. This guy in front of me takes what I amount to a hero pull. He's just going and going and going, and I'm not complaining. There's the elbow. And I think I take a look back behind, and I see the peloton is coming right up on us. I think the 2 guys behind us, who are the, you know, riders 4 and 5 in our group, get sucked back in, and I'm like, fuck it, I'm not going to do it. I just say, we got caught, and I'm not going to do any more work here. It's not worth it. So that's the anatomy of a failed break. We are now inside of 2 laps to go, and that right there is the 7th and final break attempt here. I had thought about doing something similar at this point in time, actually with 3 laps to go. But at this point, I don't know, I was feeling it, and I was definitely tired and not really thinking straight, and that just kind of went off without me being able to really effectively react to it. And so my solution is I'm also thinking these other guys have got to be tired, although the guy who made the break, he wasn't doing anything before, so maybe he's got a little bit more gas in the tank and is probably a little bit smarter than some of the rest of us here. So and there's the guy who'd made a bunch of breaks before, and he's just following along. You'll see the pace is higher here. We're instead, as before, we were around 25 to 26 miles an hour. Now we're 29 miles an hour. Pretty classic behavior for everybody's getting antsy. You can see that guy just charging up on the straight. Again, still coming up on 1 lap to go, but we're still in our second to last lap here. And I don't think that there's really much chance for that stuff to stick. And in fact, oh no, it looks like there's still one guy up there. The guy who makes the break up there, he actually had quite a bit of separation. I think at some point they called 11 seconds up ahead, but you can see he's slowly getting pulled back there, and now they're ringing the bell. We're on 1 lap to go. And I should mention, I did look up some of the other teams here. So there was, in addition to Dolce, Fat Cake, Teroon, there was Work Health, SJBC, Penn Velo, Mike's Bikes, Alta Velo, and La Marinda Cycling Club. And it was our friends over at La Marinda Cycling Club that actually won this one. They clinched it, and we'll see that and see why in just a minute here. But the pace and tempo is really high now. My heart rate, you can see, 174. We're cooking with gas here. And my thinking right now is, okay, it's basically going to be a sprint finish. I have a pretty crappy sprint, so I got to position myself well. I've got to be somewhere at the front of the group. I don't want to try to dive bomb anybody here, but you can see, oof, it's getting touchy with wheels, getting a little skittish here. I just want to be in a good position, maybe fifth or sixth wheel, so I'm protected enough, and I have, you know, some gas here to be able to reserve for the actual sprint at the end. The other issue, and one that I try to avoid, is getting caught behind a bunch of folks, and so it's really important to be able to anticipate accelerations, and I think we're going to see the final acceleration happen in the winning move, and boom, right there on the right. And so there they go. That's the move that won the day right there. So everybody's trying to react. That big dude right there who hadn't been out at all in the rest of the race, he just goes out, makes a big statement, and right there I'm probably sixth or seventh. And here we go. Everybody's sprinting. The line's coming up. We're just sprinting basically just to maintain our position. And there it is. I think I finished 8th on this one, so top 10. Wasn't too displeased with that. Wasn't overly pleased with that. But that bigger guy there on the upper on the left, who's given a fist bump right there, he's the one who clinched it. And it was just that big fast acceleration that happened, and was able to get the jump on everybody. And there's nobody that could really out sprint him. I know I sure as hell couldn't. But sometimes that's just what wins the day, and it's really important to get the right positioning when you lead up to the final, in order to be able to make it through. So this was a fun one, always learning, and yeah, excited for the next one. We'll have rear-facing GoPros on the next one, so we'll catch you guys on that one. Thanks for joining.